Good afternoon. Welcome to preparing for year-end close and the printing of your year-end tax forms with Sage 50 US Edition. While we allow time for everyone to get logged in, just a few housekeeping tips to ensure a quality experience. We're streaming live, so it's highly recommended that you close any bandwidth-heavy apps. We've also disabled cameras and microphones to maximize audio and video quality. This webcast is being recorded. All attendees will receive an email link to the recording of this webinar shortly after it's concluded. And you can also find a recording of this webinar on our Community Hub in a few days. You may also ask your questions throughout the webcast using the Q&A chat feature. And we do ask that all questions are kept within the topics of this webinar. Before we get started with today's presentation, I wanted to briefly introduce myself. My name is Damien. I'm a senior customer support representative, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. In my role, I've had the privilege of helping countless customers navigate challenges and find solutions that truly make a difference. There's nothing more rewarding than turning a frustrating experience into a positive one, and that's what drives me every day. To begin, I'd like to introduce you to our Sage 50 US Year-End Center. We recognize the demands on your business and why you're attending this webinar. That's why we put significant effort into our Sage 50 US Year-End Center. And to help you avoid longer hold times during this busy season, the Sage 50 US Year-End Center is available 24/7 to support you. The Sage 50 US Year-End Center includes frequently asked questions, such as detailed instructions for year-end tasks, such as closing the books, generating financial reports, and preparing for tax season. It has checklists to ensure you don't miss any critical steps in the year-end processes. Updates and downloads, such as the latest software and payroll tax updates, along with the latest announcements, news, and alerts regarding your Sage 50 software. It has support resources, such as links to helpful articles, videos, or for any immediate support needs, you can chat with us via our automated assistant or live chat. We also have learning resources such as Sage University, which is an online learning platform designed to help users get the most out of their Sage 50 software. It offers a variety of courses and other resources tailored to different skill levels and business needs. During this presentation, we'll be going over the printing of the payroll tax forms W-2, 940, and 1099, helpful payroll tax reports that can be used to assist you with processing your payroll tax forms, closing your year using the year-end wizard, helpful year-end knowledge base articles, and briefly discuss the two upcoming changes to payroll, those being special catch-up for retirement plans and the big beautiful bill overtime tax changes. Let's continue with how to access your payroll tax forms and the printing of your federal tax form W-2. So there are a couple of different ways to access the W-2 tax form. Personally, I like to go to Reports and Forms. Forms. We'll come down to Tax Forms. I'm going to select Preview and Print. And here we have our payroll tax form selector. So we're going to go ahead and select 2024 W-2, W-3, our year. You're going to make your selections here. Mine's are going to be a little bit different for testing purposes, but make your selections here. And you can select OK. And we'll give this a moment to load. And here to start, we'll have our W-2 setup wizard. So we're going to want to select no thanks, start processing my W-2/W-3s. We'll select next. You can confirm your company FEIN. Select next. No, I use single data file for this company. Make your selection and click next. You're going to confirm all of your company information here. And when that's done, you can click next. Make your selection here. Personally, I'm filing for my company/employer. And select next. Confirm any state tax items. Select next. Same here. You can confirm, add, or edit any local tax items. When you're ready, select next. You may get different pop-ups depending on your state. Just acknowledge them and you can select OK to continue. You're going to make your selections on the data verification page. I made my selections. So I'm going to select next. You're also going to make your selections here from myself. I'm going to say 941, none apply, and then I'm going to select next. If you would like to truncate, you can go ahead and select truncate for your social security numbers, or just make your own personal selections and select next. And we'll give this a moment. It's loading the tax preparer. Sometimes it can be a little bit faster than this. There we are. So we're just going to acknowledge that we can review and edit the information on the preparer sheet, print our own personal copies if we'd like to, and then we'll go through with the submission. We're going to be printing today. So on the first page, you're going to be presented with highlighted blue fields. Just go ahead and confirm the information, update any information as needed, and when you're done, you're going to select next. And we're just going to continue this process through the whole W-2 preparer sheet. If you get any error messages, you will have to go back and correct them. So I'm going to go ahead and select go back and correct. Looks like the social security number was missing a couple of digits here. So we're going to fix that. And I'm going to select next. And now you see it allows me to proceed. And we're just going to rinse and repeat this process through confirming the information is correct in the highlighted fields and selecting next. There's our federal information, looks good. State information looks okay. Any unassigned columns where applicable, this is where you would update those, confirm they're correct, and you can select next. Finally, we'll get just a short information window saying before we proceed, you can go back and double check if you want. I already know the information is correct, so I'm going to select agree so we can continue on with the printing process. You're also going to be presented with an offering from Atrix for e-filing. If you'd like to take advantage of that, that'll be coming up here shortly. That's right here. If you'd like to e-file, you have your e-file options here. For our purposes today, we're going to be printing. So I'm going to select my own options, and we're going to be printing the employee, the federal, and the state W-2s. You'll notice when I select federal, you get a message. It reads organizations filing an aggregate 10 or more IRS returns in a calendar year of any kind, including W-2s, 1099s, 1095Cs and Bs, will need to file all required returns electronically. You can just confirm that to move forward. And for state, we'll get a similar message. This one just referencing many states have lowered the electronic filing requirements to align with the new federal requirements of electronic filing if more than 10 returns. So you're going to go ahead and click OK on that one to confirm and move on with the printing process. So we're going to select next after we made our selections. Again, we're presented with another offering from Atrix. So if you'd like to go back, you can say yes, you want to go back and change your options to the complete e-filing service, but we're going to be printing today for our purposes. So I'm just going to select next. Make your selections here if you have any applicable state forms you're going to be printing. You can then select next. This is just a summary of what we're going to be doing. If you'd like to print that summary, you can. I'm going to go ahead and click next to continue. And shortly here, we're going to get our first form. So it looks like our first form is going to be the employee W-2s. So we'll give that a moment to load. There we are. You can go through the employee W-2s by using these left and right arrows at the upper left-hand corner if you'd like to. Confirm the information is correct. When you're ready, you can click next step. If you'd like to print the employee W-2s now, we're going to say yes. And we're going to be presented with the message, the W-2 should be printed on the official 4-part perforated paper with a plain front and the pre-printed employee notice on the back. Insert those forms now into your printer. If you need to purchase the forms, our Sage Forms department does have those forms available. So we're going to click OK. After we load our forms, we're going to click OK. We're going to be presented. At this point, it'll start printing for you. I'm printing the PDF, so I'm going to have to just go through this PDF process. And I'll save that. This will basically be simulating your own print job. Once the print completes, it moves you on to the second form. And it looks like that's going to be our federal W-2. So again, we can look through it, confirm it's okay. I'm going to click next to continue. And I'm going to say, yes, I would like to print the 941 federal W-2 now. And we're presented with another message. The federal copy cannot be printed on perforated paper. So you're going to go ahead and insert plain paper at this time. And when you have that loaded, then you can click OK to continue. I'm going to go ahead and just do this here. Because I'm printing the PDF. Your printer would be printing out the documents as we speak. Our third form is going to be the federal W-3. And you would just go through and correct or verify the information is correct. Click next step when we're ready. And I'm going to say, yes, I would like to print federal W-3. Let me go ahead. And we're just going to save that. Our fourth form will be any state or applicable state tax form. So I'm going to go ahead and just confirm everything looks okay. We're going to select next. Would you like to print the Georgia W-2 now? Yes, I do. And again, for me, I'm just going to save that PDF there. If you have any other applicable forms, they're going to pop up now. I have the G1003 report. You may get different ones, but similar to the other forms, go ahead and confirm everything's correct. If there's any red fields that you have to fill in, go ahead and fill those in. And then you can select next to continue. And we have a notice just basically saying, if you want to go back and double check your work, you can go back and double check it. I know everything is okay. So just verify everything's all right. And when you're ready to continue, you can just select agree to move forward. Would we like to print the G1003 report now? We're going to say yes. And I am going to save that. And then our final form is going to be the employer W-2. We'll give that a second to pop up. We can look through it, make sure everything looks okay. Once you've confirmed it's okay, you can select next step. And I'm just going to go ahead and save that. And once you've saved your final form, if we give it a moment here, it's going to pull up the history window. So congratulations, you've completed running the W-2. This is just giving you some options here. It shows you what we successfully completed. And then if you'd like to submit any correct any completed W-2s, you have that option. If you want to go back and e-file or print incomplete W-2s, if you want to reprint any completed W-2s, or for whatever reason, if you need to completely start over, you can click this button to start the process over from scratch. That completes the printing of your tax form W-2. When you're ready, you can just click close. It'll bring us back to our select report or form window. You can close that and then basically move on with your day, or you can move on to the next form. Okay. All right. And next, let's begin with the printing of the tax form 940. And now that we've completed the printing of the federal tax form W-2, we can go ahead and begin the printing of the federal tax form 940. So similarly to the W-2, I'm going to go this time to reports and forms, mouse over forms. We're going to select tax forms, preview and print, which is going to pull up a payroll tax form selector, and sorting from top to bottom. So we're already filtered for federal. We're going to go ahead and select our 2024 940 report. Again, for purposes of this demonstration, the 2025 form is not available yet. So we're just going to go through the process using the 2024 form. It's no different when you have access to your 2025 forms moving forward. Okay. Our frequency is going to be yearly, and the year is 2025. So once we verify that information is correct, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And after this short loading period, it's actually going to go ahead and pull up the 940. You're not going to see the company setup wizard anymore because we've already completed it. That was where, if you remember, we had to enter the FEIN number. So that's already been completed. So that's not going to pop up. We can just go straight to the form and begin the printing process. We're first presented with a prompt, basic instructions on what we're going to be seeing here to review and edit. update any red highlighted fields. We can make our own personal copy if we want to. I'm not going to be doing a personal copy for myself for this demonstration, but if you wanted your own personal copy, you would just click that print button up here. And then just the printing and or e-filing of your federal state copy. So I'm going to click OK to acknowledge that message. And then we have another pop-up just regarding the red fields. If there are any red fields anywhere on the 940, they are required. So we would have to fill them in before it allow us to go through and print. So I'm going to acknowledge that message as well, just by clicking OK. So now that we have access to the 940 here on page 1, you would just scroll through and verify your information is correct. Okay, once you do that, we can go ahead and address this red field. I'm just going to put in $1.80 here, just put something in there so I can satisfy the red field. And then I'm going to tab to go over to page 2, which is the signature page. So here on page 2, if you have any information on here, you also want to go through, verify that it's correct. I'm going to go ahead and address this red field, which is basically asking for our title. So I'm just going to give myself a title of Sage. And then I'm going to go ahead and tab back over to save that change. It puts us back on page 1. We've already verified this information, so we're actually ready to print at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next Step. Now, you're going to receive a prompt letting you know that if you have an amount due, the 940V is now going to be attached. So if you were expecting a 940V, it does not pop up on the 940 until you get to this point and you click OK to confirm this message. So after we click OK, you'll also receive another prompt. We'll look at this on page 2 here. If you need to file a change of address or responsible party form 8822-B with the IRS, to check the box on the bottom of the signature page. I'll show you what that is. So if you need to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to acknowledge this just by clicking OK. You'll notice now we have 3 pages here. We're going to get to that 940V there in a moment, but let's go to the signature page. We'll go down to the bottom. And you'll see that what it was referencing right here. So check the box if you need to file a change of address or responsible party form 8822-B. For purposes of this demonstration, I don't need that form, so I'm not going to click on the box. I'm just going to go ahead and go to page 3, which is the 940V that gets generated. So you can confirm the information is correct here. And once you've confirmed that information is correct, we can click Next Step. Again, you'll get another prompt just reminding you about the change of address or responsible party form. You can just click OK to acknowledge this message and it'll go away. And immediately after, we'll get another prompt. This is similar to the W-2 where it's just saying if you want to go back and double check the information, go back through pages 1 through 3 and make sure everything is correct, you can click double check and it'll allow you to do that. For our purposes, we're just going to click agree because we know all the information is correct at this point. So I'm going to select agree. And then finally, after you click agree, it's going to allow us to click next step and get to the printing options. You'll notice how the e-file button is actually grayed out, as you do need an Atrix subscription to e-file the 940. But for our purposes, we're just going to go ahead and print anyway. So I'm going to select print. And I'm going to be printing to PDF, but yours will be going to your printer. So I'm going to select print, and we can just do 940 new, and I'll save that. Now, after your print process completes, after my saving the PDF completes, you're prompted with a message, did you complete processing this report? You want to go ahead and click yes, so it records it and refreshes it in Sage. So we can click yes. And once you do click yes, that completes the process. And that was the printing of the tax form 940. And it puts you back on the select a report or form window, which you can then close out and then just go ahead and move on with your day or move on to the next federal tax form if you have any more that you are going to print. Okay. And now let's continue with the printing of the tax form 1099. And moving on to the final tax form that we're going to be printing during this presentation, we are now going to print the 1099 miscellaneous form. So similar to the other tax forms, I'm going to go up to Reports and Forms, select Forms, Tax Forms, Preview and Print. And then once we get our payroll tax form selector, I'm going to go ahead in the available forms menu and select the 1099 miscellaneous. In case you have to do the 1099 NEC or the 1099 INT, they are all similar. They're all run the exact same way. So for purposes of the demonstration, I'm just going to go ahead and print the 1099 miscellaneous. So once we confirm the frequency, which is yearly, the year is going to be 2025. I'll go ahead and click OK. And in a moment, we are going to get the prompt that I'm processing 2025 data using the 2024 form. But again, as I explained earlier, the 2025 forms are not available right now. So for all intents and purposes, it's going to be the same exact process going through once the 2025 forms are made available to the public. So here we have our 1099 setup wizard. So similar to the W-2 and the 941 setup wizards, they're very similar. We're just going to go ahead and answer the questions. And once we confirm our answers, we're going to click the next button. So we could do a test drive that lets you walk through the process without saving any of the information. But for this purpose, we're going to go ahead and select no thanks, start processing my 1099/1096s, and we're going to click next. Here is your company payer TIN. So whether you want the format as Social Security or the EIN, make your selection and then click next to continue. And on the next screen, this is the multiple payroll data fields. So this again is asking the question whether you use multiple data files for the company or whether you use single data file for this company. So we're going to leave the default set to no. And I'm going to select next to continue. So here in the payer information window, you notice there is a red highlighted field here. So the email address for the contact is required. So I'm just going to go notemail@notemail.com just to put something in there. And there aren't any other indications here that there's a problem, but watch when I click next. So you see, even though there wasn't an error highlighted here, this is an issue. This field for the contact name is only alphanumeric. So we're going to go ahead and just take out that 2025, and I can click next to continue. And there we go. Let us proceed on to the next page, which is the tax preparer type. So either you're filing for your company/payer, or you're a third-party paid tax preparer filing for one or multiple companies or EINs. So we're going to leave the default to I'm filing for my company/payer, and I'm going to select next. Now, this is also a little different. This is if you have a transfer agent. So as default, we're going to see it selected as I do not use a transfer agent. But if you do use a transfer agent, it is going to require that you put in the transfer agent's information on the next page. So just to show you what it looks like, I'm going to select I use a transfer agent and click next. And as you can see here, it just requires a transfer agent's information. So you would go ahead and put in all the transfer agent's information, click next, and then it'll push us over to the state and local tax items page. But for our purposes, being that I don't have a tax agent, I'm going to hit back. I'm going to select I do not use I do not use a transfer agent, and I'm going to click next. And here we have our state tax items. As I do not have any, you can verify the information or add or edit as needed. And when you're done, you can click next. Similarly, we have the special state or local tax items. You can add or edit as needed, but once you verify the information is correct, you can click next. And here on the data verification page, this is simply asking if you have any recipients who elected to only receive the 1099 forms electronically. So you can make your selection here. I do not, so I'm going to leave it as a default for no. And I'm going to click next. And then the recipient identification numbers. So only those numbers that are formatted for Social Security numbers will reflect the truncation. But I'm going to go ahead and say I want to truncate. And then also, would you like to print the REN on recipient copies that are reported as zeros? So you could say either to leave it blank or yes, just print them out as zeros. I'm going to leave the default for this demonstration as yes, to print the zeros. And then you click next after you verify your selections. We'll give it a moment, and it's going to start to pull up the 1099 preparer sheet. Okay. And here we have the 1099 preparer sheet. Again, it gives us a little prompt, just basically telling us what to expect during the process. We're going to go through and review and edit as needed, print our own personal copies as needed, and then at the very end, we're going to submit, whether that means e-filing or printing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge this message so we can start on our preparer sheet. And this is the 1099 miscellaneous preparer sheet. And similar to the other payroll tax forms, all of the areas that it wants us to verify are going to be highlighted in blue. So as we can see here, it says verify the recipient taxpayer identification number. So we're just going to come through here. I have my 6 vendors and make sure these numbers are correct. And they are. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. And on the next screen, we have to verify, check if it's a FEIN, if checked, if recipient's TIN is an FEIN. Basically the formatting for their TNs. If it's a business, we want to go ahead, and here we have the highlighted area. So we don't want this in Social Security format because these are actually businesses. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flag that these are actual companies and not individuals. And for a final vendor, that's actually an individual. So I'm going to leave that one as is. And once you've made your selections, you can then select next. Now, a little differently than the 941 or the W-2, where we saw a red highlighted area pop up for errors, this one is highlighted in yellow. And the difference being is if we wanted to, you can actually continue without correcting. This might be correct for you and for your business, but for our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and select go back and correct. So the reason why it's flagging this vendor and not the other 5 vendors is because this specific vendor here is actually an individual. So I'm going to go ahead, and this was Mr. John Doe, fictitious vendor. Now that I filled in his name, as you see, all of our other 5 vendors have their company names in, 1 through 5. Now that I've verified this information is correct, I can go ahead and click next. Okay, now it's going to go through and ask us to verify the names are correct. So we know we have our one individual, John Doe. Here's our other 5 vendors, company 1 through 5. I've now verified all of the names for my recipients are correct. So I'm going to click next step. And now it would like us to verify the recipient's addresses. So also highlighted in blue, we can take a quick look here. These are all the addresses. That all looks good. Okay, so once you've verified that the address information is correct for your recipients, we can go ahead and click next. Now it would like us to verify the income boxes. So we can see here, I have my miscellaneous set as other income. You'll make your selections as needed in the 1099 defaults, but mine is for miscellaneous other. So in box 3, it shows all of my checks. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead, and once I verify the information is correct, click next. Now it would like us to verify the state is correct, and we can see here highlighted in blue, all of these recipients are Georgia recipients, so that information is correct. Once you make your selection, or once you verify the information is correct, you can click next. And we want to verify the amount of state income and withheld. So within our software for 1099 vendors, it does not actually record state income. So that is not going to be applicable to what we're doing now. So you can basically just skip this part. There is nothing to verify or confirm because it does not exist within our software. So I'm going to go ahead and click next to continue. And here we have another important notice. Similar to the other tax forms, if you want to click double check, just to go back through the preparer sheet, make sure all the information is correct and verify everything is good to go, you can click double check and it'll allow you to go back. But for our purposes, I know that everything is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and click agree to proceed with the 1099 printing. Similar to the other tax forms that we printed, there are offerings through Atrix to do the complete e-filing. So if you would like to e-file, those options will be available shortly. But for our purposes, we're going to be printing. So I'll acknowledge the messages just by clicking next or OK where applicable. And here we are. So if you wanted to do the complete e-filing through Atrix, that is available. For our purposes today, we're going to be printing. So I'm going to select my own options, and I'm going to print my recipient 1099, my federal 1099 and 1096, and my 1099 and reconciliation forms. So you notice by default, it had selected the e-file for federal 1099s and 1096s. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck these boxes. And when I do, it's going to give us a similar message, just basically a reminder stating that an aggregate of 10 or more IRS returns in a calendar year of any kind, including W-2s, 1099s, 1095s, Cs and Bs, will need to file all required returns electronically. So we're just going to acknowledge that message. We'll see a similar one here for state. We've seen this in the other two tax forms that we printed. So I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge this by clicking OK. And now we're ready to click next to continue with the printing process. And here again, we have one more offering and a reminder that Atrix has a complete 1099 e-file service. If you're interested, you can click this little checkbox here and say, yes, I'd like to continue. But for our purposes, we're going to be printing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click next to proceed. Similar to the other tax forms, this is just to review the data. It's going to tell us the steps we're going to be taking. You can make a printout just of this list if you want. For these purposes, I don't necessarily need it. So I'm just going to click next to proceed. And after a moment, we're going to receive our first form, which looks like it's going to be the federal 1099 miscellaneous. So similar to the other forms, you can scroll through, make sure and verify all the information is correct. You can cycle through the pages. Here in the upper left-hand corner, you got the arrow buttons here. And once you verified all the information is correct, you can click next step. You'll receive a prompt saying, would you like to print the federal 1099 miscellaneous now? We're going to click yes. In which you'll receive a second prompt stating the official red paper is no longer required. The federal 1099 miscellaneous copy cannot be printed on perforated paper. So please insert your plain paper now. This is when you would go ahead and place your plain paper into the printer. And once you've done that, you can click OK and the print process will begin. For my purposes, I'm going to be printing the PDF. So I'm just going to write down here. I'll just do 1099 Fed and we'll save that. And once the print process completes, it's going to move on to the next form, which is our federal 1096. And here we have the federal 1096. So again, you just want to verify the information is correct. And once you verify the information is correct, you're going to go ahead and click next step. We're going to receive another prompt. Would you like to print the federal 1096 now? We're going to select yes. In which brings up another prompt informing that the official red paper is no longer required. The federal 1096 copy cannot be printed on perforated paper. To please insert your plain paper now. So you would go ahead and insert the plain paper into your printer. And once you've completed that, then you can click OK to start the printing process. So I'm going to click OK. This is going to go to my PDF. I'm just going to say 1096 save. And once the printing process completes, it's going to then move on to the third form, which is the recipient 1099. So here we are. These are all my vendors. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll through, verify that the information is correct. Everything looks okay. And I'm going to go ahead and click next step. Again, we'll receive a prompt. Would you like to print the recipient 1099 miscellaneous now? I'm going to say yes. And then we're going to get a secondary prompt. So this is a little different. Please insert the 4-part perforated 1099 paper you purchased now. And if you do not have those forms, our Sage Forms department does sell them. So you can reach out to Sage Forms to acquire those forms if you don't already have them. But I'm going to click OK. Once you load those forms into the printer, then you can click OK. And then I'm going to print a PDF. And we'll save. And after your print process completes, it's going to move on to the fourth form, which is the payer 1099 miscellaneous. So we'll give that a moment. And here we are. So again, you're just going to look through the form, verify all the information is correct. And when you're ready, click Next Step. You'll receive the prompt, would you like to print the payer 1099 miscellaneous now? We're going to select yes. We'll get that secondary prompt to please insert the 4-part perforated 1099 paper you purchased now. So you're going to go ahead and insert your 4-part perforated paper into your printers. And then once that's done, click OK. And again, I'm going to do the 1099 here. And this is going to be, yeah, we'll replace it. This is just testing purposes. It's okay. All right. So once you go ahead and finish printing of the fourth form, you're going to be presented with the 1099 history options. Similar to the other tax forms, it gives you a list of the actions that were completed. Then you have some additional options here if you want to correct any completed 1099s, e-file or print incomplete 1099s, reprint completed 1099s, or just completely start over. Okay, for our purposes, we are finished. So I'm going to go ahead and click close, which in a moment, it just puts us back on our Sage select the report or form screen. And now we're back in the Sage software, and you can just continue with your day, or if you have any more tax forms that you have to print, you can go right back into the tax forms and begin the printing. Okay, so that'll conclude the printing of the 1099 miscellaneous form. Now, when processing your payroll tax forms, there are several payroll tax reports that can assist, if needed, with verifying the data on the payroll tax forms. Here, I've listed the payroll tax reports that you can use to assist with verifying the information on your payroll tax forms. First being the tax liability report. That can be used to compare what's calculated in Sage 50 versus what's displayed on your federal tax forms. The quarterly earnings report displays all paycheck information for each employee, which can be useful for verifying the information on your payroll tax forms as well. The payroll tax report can be used to verify payroll taxes for your company, such as FICA, Medicare, and unemployment. And the payroll exception report allows you to identify incorrect employee withholdings by comparing the calculated tax amount on the report with the actual tax amounts withheld on each employee's paycheck. Now let's continue with closing our year using the year-end wizard. And finally, the last demonstration that I would like to go over with you today is closing your year using the year-end wizard. So to get started, we're going to select Tasks from the top menu bar. I'm going to scroll down to System, and then I'm going to select Year-End Wizard. And now we have the welcome screen for the Year-End Wizard. And this is just showing us what the current open years are, so you can confirm those. And when we're ready to continue, we're going to select Next. And here on our close options, your options may look different than mine. For purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to be closing the fiscal and payroll tax years. You might have the options to only close your fiscal year or to only close your payroll tax year, or actually to close both. So make your own selections as needed. And then when you're ready, click Next to continue. And on the next screen, if you wanted to print any of your year-end reports, you can do so at this time. But if you print those reports, it will force the year-end wizard closed, and then it'll allow you to print the reports, and then you would have to start the year-end process over again. So for sakes of this demonstration, we're not going to be printing any reports. I'm just going to go ahead and click Next to continue to the next screen. Okay. Now we have the option to run an internal accounting review. Similar to printing the reports, if you decide to run the internal accounting review from this screen, it will force the year-end wizard closed, and then you would have to start over. So I'm going to go ahead and just click Next to skip this step. Now, if you see here, the next button is grayed out. For safety purposes, the software does want you to make or require you to make a backup before proceeding. So I'm going to go ahead and select backup. And this is just my little reminder. After 2 days, if I haven't made a backup, it'll remind me. And I also want to include the company name in the backup file, especially useful if you have multiple companies so you know which backup is for which company. So then I'm going to select backup and we're going to save. And it gives you a short prompt telling you approximately how large the backup is. Select OK. And now after the backup is completed, you notice that we have the next button is highlighted. So I'm going to go ahead and click next to continue. And on the next screen, similar to the previous screens, if you decide to archive your company, it will force the year-end wizard closed. So we're going to go ahead and skip this part. We don't necessarily need a read-only copy of our company at this time. So I'm going to click next to proceed with the year-end wizard. And on this screen, you can go through and you can view the new year. So I'm going to go through. We have January of 26 down to December of 26. My calendar year looks correct. This is going to be the new year I'm opening. It is important not to change any of this structure on this window. If you modify or change anything on this window, you do run the risk of corrupting your company. If you need to change specifically your fiscal year structure, if you need to change it for any reason, our support department does have methods to get that accomplished. So you can reach out to us here at support and we can give you the information on that. But for purposes of the year-end wizard, you should never change the fiscal year structure from this window. Okay, so we're just confirming and verifying it looks okay. And once we're done, we can click next to continue. And now on this screen, this is just a confirmation letting us know which year is going to be closed and which years are going to be open once the year-end wizard is complete. So you're going to just view this and verify everything looks okay here. And when you're ready, you're going to click next. And before we select begin close, I would ask that you uncheck this button here that says run data verification. It's antiquated. You no longer need to run the data verification during the year-end process. And it can make the year-end process take significantly longer depending on the size of your company. So it is recommended to actually uncheck the box that says run data verification. And then also you want to make sure, especially for those of you that have larger companies and you might be on a local network, you would want to run the year-end wizard from your server. Okay. But when we're ready, we're going to select begin close. Being that my company is significantly smaller, that process went through remarkably fast. But congratulations. Once you're done with the year-end wizard, you'll see a congratulations, and you will also see your closed years and your open years, and you can just click finish to complete the process. And that was actually running the year-end wizard. And if we wanted to confirm that our new year is open, we can always go up to the period tab here. I know you're all familiar with this. And we can now see that I have the years of 25 and my new years of 26 opened. Okay. And that concludes closing your year with the year-end wizard. And I've also included knowledge-based resources that you can reference to get more familiar with the topics that we discussed in today's presentation. These knowledge-based articles go over the year-end topics we discussed today, including links to accessing helpful information that can be found in our year-end portal. And now I'd like to go over two upcoming payroll changes. The first being Super Catch-up. Super Catch-up refers to a new type of retirement plan contribution introduced by the Secure 2.0 Act, specifically for employees aged 60 to 63. This feature allows eligible employees to make higher catch-up contributions to their 401k plans starting in 2025. Here's how it works and what it means for Sage 50 US users. So what is Super Catch-up contribution? The eligibility applies to employees aged 60 to 63. The contribution limits. In 2025, the standard catch-up limit is 7,500. The super catch-up increases this to 11,250 for eligible individuals. And this is designed to help workers boost retirement savings in the final years before retirement. Also starting in the Sage 50 US 2026 software, You'll notice that the withholding information tab within your employee record looks slightly different. We've separated the 401k fields from the special deduction fields, and within the 401k fields, we've also included the Super Catch-up option under the Catch-up drop-down menu, where you can activate Super Catch-up for any employees who meet the requirements. The second change introduced with the One Big Beautiful Bill introduced new tax deductions for tips and overtime pay. Deduction limits, setup, and how to report these changes within the Sage 50 accounting software have all been provided within the knowledge base article listed here. And as a reminder, you will receive a link to the slide deck as well as a recording of this webinar. And if you need assistance beyond the knowledge base, don't forget about live chat, which can be accessed through the Sage Support Resource Center or in product. Thank you for participating in the Preparing for Year-End Close webinar. During our session, we reviewed best practices for processing payroll tax forms and demonstrated how to effectively use the year-end wizard to finalize your 2025 records and begin 2026 with a clean, organized slate. We do have some time remaining, so I'll be more than happy to answer any additional questions you might have at this time. Please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A chat. Okay, so let me see here. I have a question just confirming it's our responsibility in mailing the 1099 recipient forms out to the respective recipients. That is correct. Recipient copies are printed and mailed to vendors. Atrix offers a la carte full service, including mailing copies of 1099 filings for an additional fee. Okay, here's another question. Is it possible to attend another event or receive a recording of this, please? I'm in a different time zone and it posted to the wrong time on my calendar, so they've missed an hour. I'm so sorry about the inconvenience. Yes, a recording of the presentation will be sent via email shortly after this presentation's conclusion. Okay. See if we have any more questions. Here's one. So if you are on a local area network with more than one user, the year-end wizard should be run on the server, not on an admin computer. Yes, it is recommended to run any major processes, data verifications, year-end wizards, such as the year-end wizard, on the server machine if you're on a local network environment. Okay. Let's see if I can find any more questions. Okay, here's one. Do you know when the MN, PFL, and formulas will be added to the payroll formulas? The MN paid formula leaves will be included in the next tax update release, tentatively scheduled for release mid-December. Okay. Okay, here we have another question. Can you close a fiscal year only and later close the payroll year? Yes, the fiscal year and the payroll years can be closed independently of one another. So you can absolutely do that. Yes. I'm looking to see if we have any more questions. Still looking to see if we have any more questions. Okay, here we are. For the NAC form, will the form be the four form sheet be corrected in Sage? Yes, so the 1099 NAC forms are the four-part forms, are the four-up forms. Still looking to see if we have any more questions. Here we are. When will the 2026 version of the Sage 50 software come out? Okay, the 2026 release of Sage 50 US is currently in a phased rollout, and it will continue to roll out over the next few weeks. Okay. Okay, here's a question. We use ACS to create 1099s and submit them electronically. As I mentioned earlier, the red form is no longer needed. So does it apply moving forward? And that would be correct. Yes, the red pre-printed forms are no longer used in the Sage 50 US software. Okay, let me see here. Okay, I have another question here. Can the 1099s be printed again if there's an error found during the printing process? Yes, absolutely. The 1099 forms can be reprinted and they can be corrected. So yes, you can do that. Okay, here I have another question. How can I combine the 1099 information from multiple companies? So during the 1099 process, the 1099 information from multiple data files can be combined during the prepare wizard. So as you're going through the process for the 1099, you'll be prompted to combine multiple company data. Okay. Here's another question. When is the time limit to update to Sage 50 update Sage 50 to the 2026 version. So the 2024 release of the Sage 50 US software is going to be fully supported until March of 2026. Okay, so you have up until March of 2026 to get upgraded to the 2026 software. We got about 5 minutes left. Let me see if I can get more questions in. Okay, well, here's a good question. What if in previous years I have not run the year-end wizard from my server, just on my admin computer? I mean, as long as it went through okay, there's nothing really wrong with that, but it is recommended, maybe going forward, that you run any major processes like the year-end wizard from the server machine, just to rule out any problems, potential problems. You always want to try to run it to the server from the server if you can. If you don't have access to your server or something is keeping you from getting access to the server to run the year-end wizard or any of those processes, it's perfectly fine to do it from your workstation if you absolutely need to. Okay. Okay, here's a good question. Is there a place on the employee's W-2 to show the overtime that employees aren't supposed to have to pay taxes on? So for 2025 filing year, the IRS guidelines have indicated any eligible overtime amounts should be reported on box 14 of the W-2. Okay, so that'd be in box 14 on the W-2. Let me see here. Okay, let's see here. Any other questions? We got a couple of minutes left here. I'm just looking through your questions. I think that is all of the questions that I have. Just know that any of the questions that we didn't get to during this presentation, we will answer them and they'll be up on the community hub. So we'll have those answered for you, hopefully here in just a few days. Um, but I do want to thank you all for attending this webinar presentation on the closing of your tax year and the processing of your payroll tax forms. We appreciate you all, and you all have an awesome day. Again, thank you so much for attending.